Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rodney Taylor, the chair of the Internet Society Barbados chapter. I also work in the capacity as director of the data processing department under the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology. I'll be wearing my hat as chair today so that I'm not speaking on behalf of the government. I believe we're, on that note, I think we're actually live. We're live on the GIS page as well. So we want to welcome our online viewers. We are really pleased. For those who are not able to make it into the room, of course, we only have so much physical space here, but we want to welcome the participants from online, and we welcome their questions and comments as well. The panel this afternoon, we have a very distinguished panel, and I'm happy to be a part of it. As you can see, there is gender balance on this panel. So Dr. Babb would be very pleased.
A rose between two thorns.
Okay. Right. So this afternoon we're talking about towards a Smart Barbados, strategies for building and governing a digital society. Let me actually, before I do that, introduce the panel. I won't bother to go over Margus's bio because he was just introduced on a previous panel, but I personally want to thank him again for taking the time to come all of this way to sit here. Last year we had a presentation about Estonia. Today we have an Estonian with us who can speak firsthand. He's the head of their digital ID department. And I'm pleased to say also that he took the time to meet with our electoral department. As you know, the electoral department at the moment has responsibility for national registration. So he was able to share some of his experience with them as well. One of the main promises on the of this administration is the creation of a digital identification. And we're keen to hear how that is articulated and how soon that will happen and what the implications are. Dr. Annalee Babb, first of all, is a friend of mine, and if you've been paying attention to the news, you may have heard the name, but just in case you didn't. She's an international consultant specializing in technology and telecommunications policy, national systems of innovation, public broadcasting, cultural and creative industries, investment and export promotion, branding, marketing, and the new digital media. We have actually struggled to get this bio down to a few paragraphs because it's quite a few pages. But I will shorten it even further to say that Annalee is the founding and former CEO of Invest Barbados, created by government in 2006 to increase Barbados's competitiveness as a world-class international business, financial services, and investment hub. I spent a short while myself working at the Caribbean Telecommunications Union in Trinidad and Tobago, and Annalee led a number of consultancies there to develop national ICT strategies for Belize and was it another Caribbean country? It doesn't come to mind now, but we were pleased to be able to work with her in that capacity. So this afternoon, the format, I'm going to provide the floor to Dr. Babb to give us the opening comments, to set the stage, as it were, to outline what she considers to be a smart society. How do we build one? What does it mean? And then I'll be happy to allow Mr. Arm to give a few comments as well, and his thoughts, and certainly we want this to be very engaging and to hear from you. So, Annalee, please go ahead.
Much, Rodney. Can everyone hear me? Yes, I think so. Thank you all for being here, and I thank the Internet Society and all the organizers, the ministry, for their kind invitation. The first thing I do want to say is, based on our last panel and discussion, what I would like to do is bring it down a little from the hardcore technology discussions that we have been having. So I want to just lay a foundation from a practical perspective with respect to where I think Barbados is, and then we can have a conversation, because I think Magnus did say that the technology really isn't the issue. There are other things that we need to treat too. So I want first, though, to make a couple of disclaimers. My first is that I'm speaking from my experience as an independent consultant and a private citizen. And why am I saying that? Because I am deeply honored by the kind sentiments that our esteemed Prime Minister has been expressing about my new role. I think many of you would know that I've been asked to be the advisor to the Minister with responsibility for innovation, science, and smart tech. But I can only hope government doesn't feel the need to rethink having me on board once I finish framing here today the issues that I believe are confronting us on this matter of making the transition to Smart Barbados. And I kept thinking about how do I approach it? How do I have the conversation? Because in many regards, I believe that we know there's an elephant in the room. And for the first time in life, I felt like I knew what it was to be a cat on a hot tin roof, just high-stepping gingerly to the edge, trying to figure out how to engineer a safe and soft landing. My second disclaimer is that on the face of it, I may look well-behaved and compliant. And I see my friend, Mr. Joseph Dolphin, laughing. But in actuality, as those who know me will attest, and I think Rodney knows this as well, I am by nature an innovator, which means that by definition, I am extremely disruptive, thank you, sir, and non-compliant with respect to the status quo, with respect to accepted norms and attitudes and models and assumptions, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm so shocked that the Prime Minister has asked me to play this role. Barbados's traditional government bureaucracy is not a place where disruption and non-compliance are made to feel at home, and which is why I left the public service many, many years ago. But the fact of the matter is that Barbados today is at a crossroads. There is a struggle being waged for the heart and soul of our nation, as has been true for many years. That struggle did not end because 8 short weeks ago, we as a people voted emphatically to change our government. In many ways, I believe that the struggle has now intensified. And today I'm being given the opportunity to name and define the contours of that struggle in very stark and candid terms. For me, it is a struggle between, one, who we are right now in this reality versus who we say we want to be, the people, the nation we say we want to become. It is also a struggle, secondly, between where we are right now in this particular moment versus where we say we want to be, the future we say we want for ourselves and for our children. So where are we now? Everybody in this room knows that Barbados's traditional government bureaucracy is the product of a hierarchical, command and control colonial culture that compelled obedience, required strict compliance, and fostered a do as I say, ask no questions, tolerate no dissent mentality. This means our new government is trying to introduce digital or smart or intelligent, whatever you want to call it, thinking and solutions into a culture steeped in analog norms, thinking, behaviors, systems, and structures that are more suited to the plantation than to a 21st century world. Yet Jesus himself once cautioned against the folly of putting new wine in old wineskins. We cannot transform Barbados using the modalities of the plantation. They are what got us here in the first place. And our country today is broken. We are grappling with serious economic and social fallout because a handful of men and women we trusted with our well-being betrayed that trust in ways and by magnitudes we are only now coming to understand. We are here because they refuse to dialogue, to listen, to learn, to change course, to make wrong things right, to operate in the interest of the nation. And we are here because our existing systems and structures allowed it. Antiquated, outmoded governance norms, conventions, attitudes, behaviors, and frameworks enabled and supported the situation and the mess in which we now find ourselves. So our question, I think, ought to be in this moment, How can we who are called to bring about positive change avoid being neutralized and silenced by the very systems and structures that we have been called to transform? Because if you didn't know it, I have news for all of us here. Established institutions tend to do just that. They absorb and nullify attempts at transformation if there are not also internal and external forces pushing and pulling together to bring about the needed transformation. And if you want to study more about that or read more about it, check out the world systems analyst called, his name is Emmanuel Wallerstein. And he talks about how rigid institutions are and how difficult it is, even with individuals acting with agency to make change. So yes, our government now includes a Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology. Yes, we're talking about Smart Barbados, but what do these things mean? Are we just talking about technology, or are we talking about something else? What kind of smartness or intelligence do we need to code or embed into our government and nation to ensure what happened in recent memory never happens again? Beyond that, what solutions and innovations must we imagine or acquire or develop and or apply to bring about lasting positive transformation in every sphere of our nation? Revolutionary innovation is about disruption. It's about taking risk. It's about changing the order of things. Schumpeter believed innovation by entrepreneurs is a destructive force that helps economies grow, even as it destroys the value of established companies, players, and interests. So disruption is destructive, and he calls it creative destruction. On the other hand, science and research or scientific research involves processes and methods and discipline that are in many ways very different from those that drive revolutionary innovation, that drive disruption. One is often disorderly, bad behave, as we would say in Barbados, sometimes even destructive. But the other is systematic and disciplined, building and organizing knowledge by asking questions that can be tested and making reasonable predictions about the universe and the way in which the world works. Each requires very different approaches and structures of delivery. But we have one ministry that is responsible for both innovation and science and smart tech. So the new digital and smart technologies can give us a window into potential approaches and solutions. For example, is it possible for us to think about the creation of Smart Barbados in the same way we see technologies like blockchain and the internet working? They are distributed or decentralized technologies and networks, but with an intelligence, I call it an ethos or a spirit at their core, whose operating principles provide a common, unifying energy, purpose, objective, and direction. So principles like sharing, collaboration, privacy, security, accessibility, speed, robustness, reliability are built into the heart of most smart technologies. But sadly, these same technologies can also be used to oppress and to control, and there are other principles that can be used in negative ways that we have heard over the last day and a half. So we need new ways of thinking about the nature of a smart Barbados and how we're going to create it. There's a gentleman called Simon Anholt who wrote an article and then a book called Beyond the Nation Brand. And he says, and I quote, "Places require new and dedicated structures to coordinate, conceive, develop, maintain, and promote an unbroken chain of proof." He says none of the traditional apparatus of trade or government is fit for such a purpose. And he goes on to say, in order to achieve a better reputation, as Socrates is said to have observed, we must endeavor to be as we desire to appear. In other words, he says, it is necessary to provide people with proof of one's virtues. And what we have been doing in Barbados, at least for the last 15, 20 years, is talking but not providing proof of our virtues. I think that the rubber needs to hit the road now, and we need to start providing that proof. To put it another way, though we are not yet who we say that we want to be, though we are not yet where we say we want to go, it is necessary for us to begin right now, in this moment, to think, speak, and behave as if we're already there. So if we do that, what might a smart Barbados look like? And this is my last couple slides. So a smart Barbados. I have created, and this is my own acrostic. I am putting it on the table for us to have a conversation around it, but Barbados needs to decide what is smart going to mean to us. So if we use my acrostic, S, the technologies and the solutions must be simple and secure. Is it simple and easy to understand? Is it safe? Are people protected? Is information secure? It must be M, meaningful and measurable. Can the effects be measured? Are they meaningful? Does the solution, technology, or application make a difference in a positive way? In other words, does it add value to people's lives? Is it measurable? Then A, appropriate. Does the solution make sense? We come up with some stuff that really does not make sense. And if it doesn't make sense in our analog world or in reality, how is it going to make sense in a digital one? Is it the right solution? But it might be the right solution, but is it the right timing? Do we need to roll it out now, or do we need to wait? Are we doing it for the right reason? Is it the right provider, the right audience or target or user? Is it the right delivery? And are we getting the right results? If we're not getting the right results, my friends, we have to go and start again. That is what innovation does. That's what disruption is about. R is I said responsive and reliable is the R in SMART. Is the solution agile? Is it consistently agile, meaning is it fast? Is it nimble? Is the solution user-friendly and responsive? Is it consistently so? Or is it cumbersome, frustrating, difficult to use, unreliable? One day it works, the next day it doesn't. Is it responsive and reliable? And finally, is it team-based? And this is critical to understanding smart anything. Is the solution collaborative, cooperative, and participatory? Is there continuous learning? Is it based on dialogue, give and take, respect for different views, respect for dissent? Are we bringing people along with us? Or are we making sure that we leave no one behind? The Catholic Diocese of Rochester, I saw a quote where they said, leadership is the process of influencing the behavior of other people toward group goals in a way that fully respects their freedom. And so this is my final word. How must we build and govern to achieve smart success? There is a tension between the need to get things moving quickly and the need to make sure people are with us, not because they have no choice or because they are afraid. We are no longer living on a plantation. Can I get an amen? Amen. We are not slaves. We are free. And a smart Barbados, a digital Barbados, must never use the power of technologies, institutions, or governmental authority to dominate, to oppress, to enslave, to manipulate, or to unduly silence. A smart Barbados is about finding ways to balance the tensions inherent in the new technological frameworks so that freedom, meaning both rights and responsibilities, becomes not just a word, but a lived reality. I thank you. I wonder if I still have a job, Rodney. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, you see why I can't wear my government hat next to Annalee. I'm not going to add anything to that. I'm going to give the floor to Margus. Arm, I believe you have a PowerPoint as well. You want to run?
Sorry?
You have a presentation?
Yes, I have a prepared short presentation to show our journey from the beginning.
Great. So we'll ask you to bring that up now. You think?
Hello again. This is Estonian nature, a lot of swamps. And we call ourselves as the coolest digital society. And I try to give a short overview from the beginning to, until today. What was our journey, what was the critical decision points, and so on. Today it works. Thank you. And now you can see the graphs also where we are locating. But I told about that already previous session. And about the history, as you maybe know, that Estonia were part of the Soviet Union and we got the independence 1992. And at that time we were very poor people. The average salary was just 60 euros. It's not very much. And there were no digital data collected. Everything was on the paper. And we do not have a lot of any natural resources. We don't have a gas, gold. We don't have beautiful sunny beaches. We have a lot of snow and swamps. And then we made a decision, okay, what is our way to go? Let's choose the IT, information technology, and try to build up our small country based in the online. I think it was quite brave and good decision at that time. And if you talk about our identity, then we started to issue a passport, Estonian passport 1992. And validity period was 10 years. And then in the end of the 90s, you had to make a decision, what is the next generation of the identity document? Was it 2 slides on? Okay, it's the right one. Yes, sorry about that. And then we talked that, yes, let's take the ID card. It's a polycarbonate card, and let's issue the small one. It's a mandatory document in Estonia, and passport remains as a travel document. It's not a mandatory. If you want to travel outside of the European Union, you have to apply for the passport. But inside the European Union, ID card is enough. And the critical question was, is it mandatory or voluntary document? You can apply or you have to apply. He made a decision, you have to apply. All the Estonian citizens, they must have ID card. And next question was, is it with the PKI certificates? Is it with the EID component also, or without the EID component? Can you choose, I don't want to, or can you apply for the EID? No, you cannot apply for the EID. You have this by the government. You can make like opt-out. You want to revoke their certificates. You keep the card as a plastic document. But it wasn't a decision for to get it or not, it was a decision for the citizens. And the question, so, chicken or egg? It's always. There is no services. Why you need a card? Why we need a card when there is no services? Our government was very brave. They made a decision. We start issuing EIDs, ID card with the electronic parts. As you see in the bottom of the page, lot of critics in the beginning. There was a lot of comments. There's a card for the idiots. Stupid card. There's nothing else to do than scratch the ice from the window. You don't know what does it mean, but in Estonia, we had to scratch the ice from the car window almost 6 months in the air. And that was the attitude for the citizens in the beginning. And also we had to think what were the devices where we started. It wasn't laptop. It was big computer under the table and screen on the table. And the most popular telephone was Nokia, old button telephones. And we had to talk about the technology that can be used with those devices. And also it was very good public-private project. Banks were involved, government, and that's how it works. And about electronic identity, almost in Estonia we have, as I told, ID card, mobile ID. It means your PKI certificates are on the mobile device. You can use it as a ID card. Phone is just a card reader. And almost 100% of the citizens, they have the ID card. It's mandatory over the 15 years, but kids are using it also as a travel document. 50% of the population has a PKI-based mobile ID. And 20% as a Smart ID is also PKI based, but keys are shared between the device and HSM. And now Estonian timeline. We started in the beginning of the 2000s with the e-tax board. There was already e-tax board before we started to issue e-identity cards. You can have your own passport, you can go to the file your taxes. And there was M-parking. You can use your mobile phone to park your car, to pay for the parking. And next, the population registry. All the citizens' data were collected, personal data were collected in the one database. And then we saw that, okay, the data is one database, but how we can, then the other databases wanted to have this information. We implemented X-Road. And then additional things like digital signature, ID card, ID card-based bus ticket. It was, so to say, killer application. How to get citizens to use the ID card? There must be motivation. Just implement electronic bus ticket, make it cheaper than the paper-based ticket, and everybody wants to get the cheaper bus tickets. And it works. And other system, 2005, I-voting. Then we implemented mobile ID, e-police system. In Estonia, we don't have to carry with us driving licenses, insurance policies, no car registration documents, nothing. If police stops me, they can verify it's online. Just enter my ID code and you got all the information. And that is the next interesting thing, maybe, is the e-prescriptions. It means that we do not need the paper prescription to get the medicine from the pharmacy. I can call to my doctor, he enters the data, and I go to and get the medicine if needed. Okay, that's the already new innovation that data embassy might be most important. We have data in embassy in Luxembourg. It means if our neighbor, which is not like Latvia, have bad ideas with us, we can still use our critical data. It's in Luxembourg. We make the copies after every critical period, and we can store them in Luxembourg. And now I say, what is the three things that you cannot do online? But it's not the question about the technology. Technology allows everything, but it's just yet. And about the numbers also, online authentications, more than 700 million. Digital signatures in total, more than 500 billion, sorry. And how much we save the money. We have calculated that it's 1 week per capita. Every citizen in Estonia benefits from the e-ID and e-services 1 week additional time. They can spend the time with the family, go to vacation, whatever. It's just using e-services and strong identity, electronic identity. You don't have to drive to make banking transactions. You don't have to drive to go to the polling station. Everything is on your PC. I don't know that picture. It's from 1995, Peter Steiner. But do we really know who is in front of the computer? If you are a governmental official, you want to be sure that there is no any dogs who is communicating with you. You want to be that Margus is Margus and file the taxes, not the dog. But in Estonia, we can say at the moment, yes, in Estonia we know. If you want to know, we know. But there's a lot of services where you can use or get access without the ID cards. It's anonymous, some web shop you can go buy it, that's all. And lessons learned. I don't take through all those, but maybe the last one. There is never too much promotion and training for end users. And as it was discussed yesterday, panel discussion and how to protect kids online. In Estonia, we're starting with the IT lessons already from the first class. This doesn't mean you have to be ready to write the code. No, it's just education. You have to know how to be safe in online environment. It's same as you have to understand, know mathematics, read, write. Today IT is the same, basic like knowledge. I can store this on the screen. Thank you at the moment.
Thank you very much for that presentation. So you've heard from the panelists, very interesting opening remarks, very provocative presentation from Annalee, and we are pleased to have more details on Estonia's journey. Some of what you presented gels very well with what are the promises that have been made by government with respect to the digital ID, the smart cities, the free Wi-Fi, e-participation services. But it'd be interesting, and obviously we have no shortage of technologists in the room and persons who can make the technology component happen, but clearly there is more to it than that. Now, I'm happy to give the floor over to questions to ensure that we have your participation. So if you, yes, go right ahead.
Margus, right? I have a question that maybe is a question or a statement. The question to you, when you went about this platform, this transformation, all the technology that you built it upon and the framework and the thinking, was it outsourced? Did you have to bring other people, or was it a consciousness that came and skill set that came from Estonia?
As I told you, we are a very poor country. We didn't have enough money to pay for the big corporations.
You didn't have enough money?
We didn't have enough money. We started it by ourselves, our own Estonian scientists and IT guys. They started from the scratch, and X-Road, all the Estonian ID card components, it is developed by Estonian companies, and it's open source. You can start using, just maybe some consultancy to help you.
Brilliant, because no, it goes back to these two that are Barbadian and in the front rows or something. IT is like military weapons. America does not outsource its military weapons to Russia or any other country to build. It comes from within the bosom of its people. So I say to my two learned colleagues, I am hoping that when we start building our IT weapons, that it comes from the bosom of the IT community, because what this gentleman has outlined today is a consciousness that understands where they are and made the decision that it has to be done by the people and not just taking knowledge transfer, because I learned the issue with Intel. When Intel was here, we had this whole thing about Intel is going to transfer knowledge to the Barbadian people that has benefits. My simple thing is, we have to be careful when we start down this road that we get all these outsourced people to come to Barbados to help us get where we want to go. The world doesn't work that way. I find we rely too much in the Caribbean to have international experts come where we have the capacity here and not challenge ourselves, and that's critical.
Thank you, Stephen. Annalee, do you want to comment on that before we take our online question? Did you care to respond? Just a minute, June. Okay. 1 second.
I don't think you actually asked the question, Stephen. I think that was a comment, yes? So you don't need...
The question will we be going on that road of the usual bringing consultants to tell us what to do?
Okay, so I agree with the fundamentals. I agree with the fundamentals of your statement in terms of bringing consultants to tell us what to do. I agree with you that that is not the model to be used. I think we need to be very careful in how we approach the answer to that, because for me, partnerships and global partnerships are not necessarily having people come to tell you what to do. So I think it is how you create the partnerships. Now, you know that I was the founding CEO of Invest Barbados. And under the former administration, Invest Barbados was created with a very specific set of mandates in mind. And one of them, and interestingly, the minister that was responsible for Invest Barbados and its creation is now our Prime Minister. And this is now, almost 14 years ago, that she understood that Barbados could not grow to be globally competitive by looking only inward. And I agree with that. I believe that she is still of that view. When we created Invest Barbados, I am the one who envisioned the name Invest Barbados. What was created was something called the Barbados International Business Promotion Corporation, which is a mouthful. So I came up with the name Invest Barbados, but it had a tagline which has been erased. But I don't know if it will bring back the original tagline, but the original tagline that I suggested to the board was Engage the World. And the point is that as a small country with limited resources and human capital, I think that we need perhaps to redefine what we mean by what is a Barbadian. And I had this discussion again. I feel like this is deja vu. And I don't want to belabor the point, Rodney, or to bore you with these details, but my definition of a Barbadian is someone who loves Barbados, okay? We had a consultant. This is somebody, we did bring somebody in to say, from the outside, tell us what this looks like to you. And he said that we need to ask the question, who could be a Bajan? And find out, if we asked everybody in the room, anybody in the world, who could be a Bajan? Nelson Mandela, Barack Obama, whoever, but we need to define what is that concept of what a Bajan is. And then not limit ourselves to just choosing from within Barbados, but bringing in people who have the spirit of Barbados to work together with us to build something that is competitive. So I don't know if that answers your question, Stephen, but I think that we need to broaden our minds a little bit to understand what a Bajan is, but understand that external knowledge only enhances us, but we have to build the structure in the right way in order to make sure that it is not just an extraction of resources and tax incentives and so on, but that they're actually working to build us as a people. I don't know if that answers. We could have the conversation later.
All right, that's.
It has to be. Barbados is just too small for us not to have the external knowledge and capital, but we need to do it in the right way.
All right, thank you for that response. I'm going to take the online question now, June.
Hello, this question is from Fabian Lewis, and he said, I will reinstate the question because he asked it before, but the time ran out, and it is also related to this session. Question to the panelists, Mr. Margus Arm, did the government of Estonia make innovations in the teaching of mathematics to develop its digital society? If yes, was the model similar to the framework for Singapore mathematics?
Thank you.
Yes, in Estonia we support very much the mathematics and IT lessons, but the question was it the same as in Singapore? Yes. Sorry, I have to apologize. I don't know at the moment exactly
do you
Singapore
want me to
model.
repeat the question? Oh.
No, he understands the question. You understand the question? I think they were asking about comparisons between what Estonia did and Singapore with respect to mathematics, innovation in mathematics.
I told that I can, sorry, but I can't compare the Estonia and Singapore model at the moment.
Right, okay. So
But overall, yes, in Estonia we are supporting very much IT technology and all the studies in different level.
Okay. I'll take another question from the microphone.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Nyla Robinson. I'm a lawyer, educator, and Jill of all trades. I've been really enjoying this session, and I'm very interested in hearing about Estonia and their model. And I was especially interested when Mr. Arm said that their technologies might not necessarily be the most cutting edge. It's the mentality that matters. And I'm wondering, this is a question especially for Ms. Babb, not to get you into further trouble, but what is really, I'm trying to figure out what really stands in the way of our progress in Barbados because I feel like our bureaucratic mentality is still back in the dark ages. And I remember being at a session 18 years ago as an observer where a bunch of libraries from the public service, there was a presentation on a database for libraries, an electronic database. When I lived in the US, all the libraries were already online. You could just go swipe your library ticket and borrow books. Now you can borrow books online, ebooks. And here, we still have physical library cards. I probably have one in my bag. You know, and back then, when this presentation was being made, all the librarians, and I'm not trying to be rude, but if you looked outside the building, they were all driving the big Jeeps. But the comment that they all made was, we're a poor third world country. We can't afford this technology. And it had nothing to do with our economic status. It was just sort of the mentality. And I'm wondering, have we changed? Have we progressed? And what will help us to move forward?
Okay, feel free to jump straight in.
So Mike can answer. I would answer your question in a few words. For me, the issues are trust, their collaboration, and their implementation. And I would say, from my understanding, that those are the three perhaps greatest weaknesses that we have in Barbados. And when I first came back to Barbados many years ago after studying, I remember, and Stephen is sitting right here, and we got together and we said we're going to create the Barbados ICT Professionals Association. And I was one of the founding members of that. And I told all of our membership, and we had discussions about what was this organization going to do. And one of the things that I felt was absolutely critical was that we all had different capabilities. But in terms of building, say, bidding, for example, for World Bank projects, all of these other projects in Africa and everywhere, you may not be able as a small player to do it by yourself. But if you work together, trust a few people and collaborate, that you could be stronger and you could build your company. I have yet to see the level of trust and collaboration that is necessary from within the Barbados ICT Professionals Association. I haven't heard of us working together to bid on projects, to learn and to grow. So I think that we have an issue with trust, we have an issue with collaboration, and for some reason, we as Barbadians like to talk, but not do, not tick the boxes. And I believe that I can speak in this case, certainly for the Prime Minister. She is about getting stuff done. And the cabinet is about getting stuff done. And I am saying to us that if in this last going down, that we don't get some change and some stuff done that we've been talking about for 15 years, I think the window would have closed on Barbados going to the next dimension in terms of its development. And I'm very concerned. We must stop talking and start doing.
All right, thank you very much. I have a question for you, but I'm going to leave it to later. It's just in the interest of getting the questions from the floor. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Lisa Evanson's Strategy. My question builds off of the word trust that Dr. Babb used, but for Margus. You said Estonia thought of the digital ID coming out of their independence in 1992. How did you get a people to trust the government post-communism? Because I believe that people would be very worried about victimization with their using their data, anything shared with the government coming out of that environment. And I think that there is a similar climate of distrust of government that would hamper anything in the Caribbean right now, where you may feel that you may be victimized by your government for anything that you do.
All right, thank you for that question. Go ahead, Margus.
Yes, we got the independence 1992, but we started with the electronic identity in 2002. There was 10 years. And we changed most of the political figures. And that's like a new young persons, they comes and wanted to implement something, to do something. And it's not about the persons, it has to be an open model. Don't hide anything. Tell what you are talking. All the processes has to be documented, audited, no black boxes, open source. That's how you can build up the trust. If you want to hide something, you don't show anything, you're using black box technology, then you cannot get the trust, I think.
All right, good, thank you. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'll be very brief. I think foreign affairs might breed the rebels. I was part of that institution many, many years ago. Thank you, Dr. Babb, for your candor. I want to applaud this experience because networking is also a very critical part of the strategic alliances. So having come here, I've had an interface with many persons and we will connect at another level. My question pertains to Estonia. You talked about the ease of setting a business up. My question would be, what is the investment capital that you need? I want to start a business. I see the potential maybe for teaching of English as a foreign language or something. How do I get in? What do I need as my investment capital?
As a person, if you want to establish the company, what is the requirements? You just need a residency card, 18 minutes, and no investments needed.
We'll talk.
That's it. That's it, 18 minutes. Okay, David, go ahead, please.
Okay, hi, my name is David Smith. I'm with the University of the West Indies, and I am the secretary of the Barbados chapter of ISOC. We had done some research, and Estonia's digital governance seems to be oriented around a national digital council, an e-council. Am I correct in my understanding? How does the digital governance of Estonia work in terms of the creation of policy and strategy and that sort of thing?
Our authority is responsible for the centralized components like X-Road, digital identity, state border, and so on. All the components which are like mandatory agreed. Mm-hmm. And then the different ministries, they are responsible for their own IT systems. That's how it is regulated. It's no big bosses who say that it has to be done such way. The critical components are our responsibility, and other ministries, they can do what they want.
Okay, so from a policy standpoint, is policy created entirely by the government, or is it like a multi-stakeholder mechanism that's used to drive the digital policy creation process?
We have different policies.
Okay.
And it is under the Ministry of Economics, there is a governmental CIO, governmental CTO, and they lead it. How we want to move forward for the next 5-10 years. And then we have different IT houses, ministries can give their input. So
if I can probably delve a little more deeply, so it sounds very government. So far we've heard about government's policy. Well, we understand that government develops policy. Is there any sort of collaboration, say, as David has pointed out, in terms of other stakeholders, other groups within Estonia, even like we mentioned the IT Professionals Association? For us, the Internet Society is one of the stakeholders who may not be in government, but be able to inform the policy development process. Is there room or scope for that within Estonia?
We don't have like one big working group where the government and private sector can argue and discuss the policies, but we have small working groups beside the like areas. From like a digital identity, we have like our own working group. We are making our own policy, digital identity 2028, and we involve the public sector, private sector, universities, and set the road where we want to go.
Sure, go ahead. Thank you.
I think that certainly in the context, Stephen, of the question that you asked about homegrown kind of solutions, I would think that it would be very useful for us as we continue along the road of developing Smart Barbados to adopt the same approach or similar approach to open source, how we do open source. So it's not just the government that writes policy and then you roll it out, but you open source your policy. I think this, in my sense, this is what I see the Prime Minister and the Cabinet doing at this point, although she hasn't, or they haven't labeled it so. But you're going with the whole the town and country planning process, and you put all the stakeholders in a room and you have a conversation. Okay, this is where we need to get to, what do we need to do, and you have an exchange of knowledge and ideas and so on, that then once you have that, I think it becomes a sense that people take ownership of it, and it is not a top-down process. So for me, that would be the approach that we need to take in this sector, and looking at innovation and entrepreneurship, science, smart tech, and all the applications.
All right, thank you very much. We have another question from the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Joseph Dolphin, Bluegrass Equity Partners, and this question is for Dr. Babb. Dr. Babb, based on what you said earlier on, in terms of the institutional and social factors that exist, this maybe is one of the softest use of technologies, but what are some of the norms you think we have to change to achieve the level of technological advancement that we need to and quickly, because we don't have a lot of time?
Don't move from the microphone. I know that you can answer your own question. I would challenge you, would you like to share with us some of the norms that you think need to be changed?
If I had known you would have done that, Dr. Babb would have sat down. But yes, please.
Yeah, but please.
You go ahead.
Well, I mean, I named some of them. I named some of them. We have in Barbados a real barrier to trust. We have a barrier to sharing information, sharing knowledge. I have never felt, and it may be because I was not fully educated in Barbados, partly, and then I studied outside for part of the time. I have always felt that sharing information and sharing knowledge and sharing what I know enhances me rather than takes away from me. But I remember when I was a young Foreign Service officer, and I had a wonderful permanent secretary, Rodney would know Dr. Peter Lowry. And as a young officer, I used to get very frustrated because you would write to ministries or call ministries and ask them for information, and days and weeks and months would pass and they're not sharing basic stuff. And so I went to him very disturbed because he had a very open door policy, which was not usual for a permanent secretary. And I asked him, well, what's the deal with this? And he said to me, Annalee, you have to understand that in the public service of Barbados, that knowledge and information are power. So people see it that I am more powerful if I hold on to what I know and I don't share it with you. But this is not the spirit or the ethos or what drives digital anything, smart anything, or intelligent anything. It is about, you have your specialization in your area, but you understand that you are enhanced by sharing knowledge and working with others and so on. So together, you create something that has much more value than you would by yourself. So that's just one of them. I mean, I could talk about this all, but I think that is something that needs to change if we're serious about what we say in terms of becoming a smart country.
One of the reasons I asked Dr. Babb, because I wonder if some of our strengths are our weaknesses. And I think part of the culture has been to keep looking in rather than understanding we live in a world now where looking out is important. You and I both know that the movie Why Did I Get Married To could have been shot in Barbados were it not for some of the institutional structures that prevented it. And this country lost millions of dollars because of a mindset. And I fear that if we do the technological change without the conceptual change, the mind change, we're going to be still, it's like upgrading the equipment, but not upgrading the minds to use that equipment. And that's my own fear. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was the last question. That's all we have time for, because I'm going to give the panelists the opportunity to make some closing statements. Thank you for that contribution. I know my ministry, if I put on that ministry hat for a minute, is working on the technology component. Who's working on the mindset? I said my ministry is working on the technology component. I'm asking who's working on the mindset.
Quite frankly, Rodney, you know that your ministry, our ministry, is working on the mindset too. Is it not also the ministry responsible for public sector reform? So they've tossed it all, and we're in a sense, but let's be careful about it, and let's think it through. There is no ministry or no minister or no individual that can change the mindset of a nation. Okay? Every single ministry, and that's why I have always argued, and I hesitate to put it out there, but we are having an open dialogue. I argue that the fundamental change even needs to come within how we work within a cabinet situation. Because a cabinet, what you have is silos, a minister for this, a minister for that, a minister for the other. And very often there is a sense that I'm going to focus right here, and there's not a lot of cooperation and collaboration around it. But I noted that this new government coming out of the gate, I was seeing stuff on Facebook with 2 and 3 ministers going to solve issues. This is something different than I have seen on a regular basis in Barbados, but it needs to go beyond the ministers to the technocrats and the ministries and the bureaucrats and so working together. And that mindset is not going to change in 6 months. It is not going to change in a year. It is going to take leadership, but we simply have to work together.
Thank you very much. Yes, it does.
So the mindset is me, Rodney. The mindset is you. The mindset is minister. It's all of your staff. Everybody has to consciously work toward, and that's why I want us to understand what the SMART mean. And if we give a number of principles that represent SMART, those principles need to be lived out every single day in everything we do, in every decision we make, in every bit of technology that we apply, in every infrastructure system that we build.
Agreed. So SMART is an approach, it is a mentality, it is not just the technology.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we'll just a few minutes for a closing statement from you, Margus, and then we will break for lunch.
Thank you. What I want to repeat maybe is a public-private partnership. It means that if you come out with a digital identity, then government gives the tool. For example, Estonian ID card, there is no services on the card. It's just a key, and it can be used by the private sector, by the public sector. And then the private sector and the e-service providers, they bring the benefits to the citizens. They can save the cost. They don't have to implement their own authentication tools. They just can take the tool that is given by the government to the citizens. They don't have to spend their own money. And if you are talking about the motivation, how the people want to use ID card or any e-ID that you want to implement, there has to be motivation again. For example, in Estonia, how we reach the point where the 95% of the tax declaration are done, made online. Easy reason again. If you fill in the declaration on the paper, you can get your refund within the 3 months. If you make it on online, within 5 days. That was a motivation. Everybody wants to get the money quickly. And there is a IT systems behind the declarations. It's automatically done. If you're on the paper, you have to fill in take the information from the paper, put it online. It's a system. It takes time. You have to wait 3 months. There has to be motivation for the citizens also. Be clever. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. On that note, we'll wrap up our session. I want to thank both of you for very engaging presentations. Thank you. I mean, we are very fortunate here. I believe this is one of your first public speaking engagements since we heard your name. And definitely Margus for coming all the way here to participate in this forum at his own expense, at the expense of the Estonian government, and that's why we have them as partners here. And thank you for your questions and for being so attentive during this session. Sorry, it would be remiss of me not to thank the Government Information Service for agreeing to stream this session live for us on their Facebook page. So I want to applaud them for helping us. Thank you.